News 5 at 6 is sponsored by Metro Toyota. At Metro Toyota, our commitment to service is why our customers send us their friends. Most awarded in Cleveland. News 5 at 6 starts now.
She thought she was doing the right thing.
Well, I was angry. I was also upset with myself that I allowed this person to manipulate me.
Instead, she was being tricked out of a lot of money.
Losing $40,000 is a big deal.
But police and the Secret Service refused to give up on her case.
The good thing for law enforcement and for victims is there is a trail. Time was on our side.
And now that woman is sharing her story only on News 5 in the hopes of keeping others from becoming a victim of this online scheme.
News 5's Bob Jones found out after weeks of investigating, law enforcement hit the jackpot.
Well, it does make one angry and helpless.
74-year-old Sylvia Newman describing her feelings after she fell victim to a $40,000 scam.
Yeah, it was a hardship to have to lose that much money.
Akron detective Troy Looney says the online scheme was convincing and complicated.
But this is actually one of the more elaborate because it involves the social engineering and manipulation of the victim.
Sylvia tells me it all started in January with an email telling her cybersecurity software was about to be canceled, but that was just a hook into the scam. The senior was told remote access to her computer was needed, and so was her bank routing number, in order to issue a $400 refund.
During the process, I entered the $400 that was the refund amount, but I didn't realize that they had manipulated, and I could see it on the screen, it to read $40,000.
Sylvia was then told that $40,000 deposited into her account was a mistake, an overpayment, and the only way she could make it right was to wire $40,000. Which she did.
But when I returned home and told my husband all about it, he said, no, this is a scam.
Detective Looney says this type of scam seems real because victims are seeing what looks like their actual bank account on the screen.
So what they were doing is potentially maybe screen share, or they'd hack the computer so they had access and connectivity with the victim to show or manipulate a screen that appears to be the bank or online banking of that institution.
Detective Looney is part of a cyber task force, and together with Secret Service and through subpoenas, they traced Sylvia's money to one bank, a second bank, and a cloud-based security service. And they got all of her money back.
Good thing about forensics and the digital era that we live in, everything is traceable and trackable.
Looney says the key was the Newmans reported the crime quickly, but the investigation is not closed. Police are now trying to identify who stole the money. As for Sylvia, she's grateful to police for getting her 40 grand back.
We would like to donate something to the police department because they did such a great job.
And she offers this advice to others.
So don't even believe your eyes. Make sure you verify.
In Akron, Bob Jones, News 5.
Yeah, the department did do a great job. Akron police say there are other things you can do to avoid becoming a victim of a financial scam. Do not respond to texts or emails requesting personal information. Review your privacy, your security settings on social media. And if you are scammed, call police and your bank right away.
Officials with the National Transportation Safety Board have released new information about their investigation into the East Palestine train derailment. Officials are now taking a closer look at those aluminum protective housing covers used to protect the pressure release valves on 3 of the vinyl chloride tank cars that derailed. Now, they say some of the covers melted when the valves released burning gases to relieve pressure in that tank. That was done to avoid an explosion, and the agency says those damaged covers may have impacted how well the valves actually worked. The NTSB is also investigating the cause of the train derailment, which could take months.
Okay, meanwhile, the EPA has new orders for Norfolk Southern as the railroad's about to answer to the community.
News 5 anchor DeLon Dillard is in East Palestine for tonight's resource fair and town hall. DeLon?
Okay, we'll get back with DeLon as soon as he can hear us, as soon as we know that everything's okay there. Meanwhile, an initiative to allow voters to decide whether abortion should be legal in Ohio is now one step closer to being on the November ballot. Attorney General Dave Yost certified the summary of that petition today. Now the state's ballot board will review the amendment and see if they certify it. The groups behind the effort will have to collect more signatures to get that amendment before voters come this fall.
Cleveland Heights will pay $4 million to settle a lawsuit filed by a Cleveland man wrongfully convicted of rape.
Christopher Miller served almost 17 years behind bars until he was exonerated because of DNA. But the question remains, how did that mistake happen in the first place?
News 5 investigator Sarah Buttison uncovered some serious concerns about a critical and flawed policing practice.
We know photo lineups help police identify suspects. But did you know mistaken ID is also one of the leading causes of wrongful conviction? So why are local police departments still failing to follow best practices? Practices that help prevent mistakes, like the one that put Christopher Miller in prison.
I went from a 20-year-old kid with babies
Christopher Miller
to a 40-year-old man with grown kids.
treasures
With grown babies now that I've been going away from.
time
It's hard, like seeing the transition, like wow.
because he lost so much of it.
I get a chance to hear my kids call me or, Dad, come get me from a basketball game. Can you come to the game?
In 2002, Chris was wrongfully convicted of rape, accused of being one of two men who sexually assaulted and robbed a woman in Cleveland Heights.
It took a minute for it to sink in.
Sentenced to 40 years.
It took a minute for me to actually realize I got all this time.
So, how did Chris get convicted? The victim identified him from a photo in a lineup administered by Detective Mark Schmidt, the same detective investigating the case.
He started all this.
For years, Chris languished in prison until 2016.
It really caught our eye at the moment where we believed that we might be able to do DNA testing.
So Brian Howe with the Ohio Innocence Project, which works to overturn wrongful convictions, asked for a new test. DNA exonerated Chris. But that wasn't all. The request also revealed a secret.
At some point, police decided that Mr. Miller was responsible for this crime. And at that point, the evidence was marshaled to support that conclusion.
The victim initially described the attacker as wearing a white t-shirt and a green coat. But no one told the defense her description changed after Detective Schmidt conducted the lineup.
It's really hard for the officer not to even subliminally or subconsciously or changing his breathing rate or something like that signal to those witnesses which ones he wants them to pick, even if he's not trying to do that.
Mark Godsey is the co-founder and director of the Ohio Innocence Project.
Memory fades very quickly. Memory is subject to suggestion and it's very malleable. People think of it as like a tape recorder, but it's actually like quicksand.
So he helped write a 2010 Ohio law that says unless impracticable, lineups should be conducted by a blinded administrator, someone who doesn't know who the suspect is. And if a blinded administrator isn't available, police should explain why in writing.
There's never going to be a system that's perfect, but we can do better and we should do better, and there's no reason not to do our best.
But when Mark surveyed Ohio police departments in 2017, he found very few following the law. And when we surveyed Cuyahoga County's 12 largest cities, we found most water down its intent.
The fact that they're watering it down shows that they don't want to follow it.
Take this policy, adopted by 7 cities, including Cleveland Heights, whose flawed lineup led to Chris Miller's conviction. It doesn't require police to document if they don't use a blinded administrator.
This one doesn't require accountability. It doesn't require them to write down the reasons why they couldn't do it.
You turn up families and lives if you're not doing it right. You know, the lineup, you cops, you got to do the right thing.
In 2018, Chris was released after almost 17 years. The 3 babies he left behind were grown.
I was seeing them in there, but being back into their presence, you know, going to their house, and it's amazing, though.
So grown.
That's my girl.
They now have babies of their own.
We know it's more than just time lost there because of that story. So does the city of Cleveland Heights or its police department have anything to say?
They do. We wanted to talk to Cleveland Heights and Detective Mark Schmidt and include them in our report. Schmidt did not respond to my calls, but a spokesperson for Cleveland Heights sent me the following statement about why they settled Chris's lawsuit. It says, in part, while the city and individual police officer steadfastly deny wrongdoing and liability, proceeding to try a lawsuit over events nearly 22 years ago poses a substantial risk for both sides.
Really great reporting, Sarah. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
For now, let's get back out to East Palestine now.
News 5 anchor DeLon Dillard is there for tonight's resource fair and town hall. DeLon?
Yeah, and Courtney, that resource fair is well underway here at the 6 o'clock hour. They have allowed residents to come in these doors just here in the past 5 minutes or so. Let me show you what it looks like here. You see a number of tables here, environmental sampling, different resources where residents can come and get their questions answered if they so choose. That town hall you referenced, that's also expected to start coming up here in the next 20 minutes. This will be the very first time that we are hearing from Norfolk Southern in a town hall setting since that derailment on February 3rd. They have been requested to attend per the original cleanup order from the EPA. The EPA has also made many more orders for the railroad as well. After Administrator Michael Regan heard from folks during his latest trip to East Palestine earlier this week, the EPA is now requiring Norfolk Southern to test for dioxins. Those are toxic chemical compounds that take quite a long time to break down, and it can be produced by burning something like fuel. According to the EPA, the majority of human exposure to dioxins is from what we eat, things like meat, dairy products, and fish, and they can cause a number of health issues, including cancer. Now, the EPA says if tests show dioxins are at levels that pose unacceptable risks, they will order an immediate cleanup. Again, as I said off the top here, Norfolk Southern is scheduled to speak coming up here in the next 20 minutes or so. This is the very first time they have spoken at a town hall here in East Palestine since that derailment. We will be here. We'll be speaking with residents who are getting resources about how they feel about all of this. And I'll have a live report for you coming up on News 5, at 11 o'clock. Back to you.
All right, DeLon, we look forward to seeing what Norfolk Southern has to say tonight, and we will be looking for your report tonight at 11. Thank you.
Oh, get ready for some rain to start your weekend. Coming up.
And believe it or not, we've got a story about dogs and macaroni and cheese. Really, what else do you need?
Well, we're going to tell you how the two are connected and how they're helping people in our community. Right now, there's a growing number of families requesting a service dog for their child, and the cost to fill that need is also rising.
So, tonight, News 5 anchor Katie Houston shows us why it's never been more important to eat up some mac and cheese this weekend.
Here I have a traditional elbow macaroni. I render that down a little bit more.
It's time for the Mac and Cheese Throwdown.
Then you add your Parmesan cream sauce. Yes.
19 of Cleveland's top restaurants and food trucks will be competing for the best take on the beloved comfort food.
3 tablespoons and 1 for good luck.
Including Luxe Kitchen and Lounge.
What are the best mac and cheese cheeses?
I think Parmesan, Gruyere, and Gouda.
But in this food fight, everyone's a winner because it's a benefit for WEWS for Kids, a Cleveland nonprofit that trains both mobility and autism service dogs for children, along with a newer and growing request for mental health service dogs, says Executive Director Sarah Nelson.
This event now makes up about 25% of our operating budget, with 100% of the proceeds really coming to WEWS for Kids. These restaurants are donating all the food.
And never has eating mac and cheese been so beneficial, because Sarah tells me both their operating costs and number of families requesting help have never been higher.
What used to be, say, a $28,000 experience to train one single service dog from start to finish, which at this point is a 2.5-year placement cycle, is now more like a $35,000 placement cycle. And while the families do fundraise a certain portion of that, we're not going to pass on those costs to the families.
Sarah tells me they currently have more than 30 families either actively fundraising or waiting for their service dog, like sweet little Whitney here. And that doesn't include, she says, the families who are in the midst of the application process or the ones who have yet to even hear about how WEWS for Kids could help them.
We have become the charity that Cleveland grew off of the backs of people that decided to put $1 or $5 in a donation bucket on West 6th Street, or shown up and bought a ticket to a mac and cheese throwdown. It is Cleveland who, through 19 years now, has seen the value in what a service dog brings to a child's life. And I cannot say thank you enough for that.
Katie Houston, News 5.
That is something right there. The Mac and Cheese Throwdown. I love that name. The Mac and Cheese Throwdown. Sunday, noon to 3:30. It's at the Madison.
I had no idea. $35,000 for a service dog to train, and it's a 2.5-year process.
I like mac and cheese.
I got caught up in the mac and cheese.
I did too.
Now you're hungry.
Yeah, now we're hungry. Okay, hey, yeah, March is here.
Yeah.
March number 2, second day. Let's show you. March 1st, we have an average high of 42. By the end of the month, we're improving. 53 degrees is the average high. Average snow for the month, 10.8 inches. Now, we've managed to be spared a lot of snow January and February. I don't think we're going to escape it all during the month of March. Right now, we are cloudy, we are hazy, we are 41 degrees, 33-degree dew points, a northwest wind at 7. It's quiet weather for the most part right now, but chilly weather. 39 Sandusky to Norwalk, 37 Mentor, 38 in Ravenna. 39s, Ashtabula to Youngstown, and we've got lower 40s for Akron, Canton, all the way over Route 30 into the Mansfield area. We had 50s inland. Dover, New Philly was 55 degrees today. Cleveland's high, 46, the low 35. We've been as cold as -4 in 1978. 46, 43, 47. There's a 52 for Akron, Canton, and Dover, New Philly, middle 50s. Flood watches are going up. To our west, an inch to an inch and a half of rain here. There's a wind advisory going up there. Nothing for us yet here in Cleveland or Akron or Canton, but that could easily change. We're all going to see some heavy rains, and we're all going to see wind gusts above 30 miles per hour, maybe even above 40 miles per hour tomorrow during the afternoon. And the window for most of the rain to fall is generally between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Here's the storm. Tornado warnings here in the Arklatex area coming out of Texas. And that low is going to pull north and east. It's going to head into the western basin of Lake Erie tomorrow evening. So we'll be on the warm side of this system again. So for us, it's rain, it's wind. We're not expecting severe storms. But the good news is we're going to miss out on all the heavy snow right here headed into Chicago and Michigan. There'll be some ice too. For you and me, it's rain, a chilly rain. So overnight lows will be in the 30s. I think we'll be dry all night long. Tomorrow morning's rush looks dry, albeit a little chilly. And I've got donuts here because I'm hungry. I'm hungry for donuts and now mac and cheese. So we get rain tomorrow and wind. It's going to feel chillier than the lower and middle 40s, which will be the actual air temps. 43, heavy PM rain, cloudy and windy. 32 tonight for Akron, maybe a flurry by dawn. We got 41 Friday. It's heavy rain and wind. Saturday, 42. Sunday, 46. Middle 50s on Monday. And then we're back into the 30s by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week with maybe a little snow.
After getting back in the win column last weekend, the Cavs were once again on the wrong side of the scoreboard last night in Boston. The Cavs and Celtics have played tight games each time they've seen each other this season. The first 2 games were overtime wins in Cleveland's favor. Last night, a 4-point win for the Celtics. The Cavs allowed Boston to go off with 41 third-quarter points, a dagger, despite fighting back down the stretch.
You know, we had similar looks on both ends. We had a couple corner threes that didn't fall for us. They had a couple that did, and I thought the tide kind of turned at that point. But, you know, again, they're a really good basketball team, and credit to our guys for continuing to fight and get back.
The Cavs are home for their next 2 games. They host the Pistons on Saturday, then see the Celtics again on Monday. Busy night in store off Prospect. The Wolstein Center is hosting back-to-back Horizon League quarterfinal games. The women tipping off first. Their game against Milwaukee is underway now. The Vikings are ranked 2nd. The Panthers are ranked 7th. They played each other twice during the regular season. Cleveland State winning both times, the first by 31 points, the second by just 7. A win tonight would give the Vikings their 4th straight postseason victory when playing at home over the last 4 seasons. Following that game, the men, who are ranked 3rd, are hosting number 6 Robert Morris in their quarterfinal game. The winner will move on to the semifinals in Indianapolis on Monday. The Vikings have won 5 of their last 6 entering tonight and beat the Colonials both times they faced them this season.
Being able to host is huge. It's an advantage. We get an opportunity to be in front of our friends and family.
I think we've played some of our best games at home, in the Wolstein, so we have some form of confidence when we play here.
Having the next opportunity to play at home in a winner go-home situation, I know the fans going to have our back, and we're going to have their back and get the win.
Tip-off is at 8 p.m. I was at the last game they played against each other, and Cleveland State won on a buzzer beater. So hopefully they win a little easier tonight, though.
Oh, I'm sure it was a good game, though.
It was. Are you wearing your Cleveland State green? It's a little brighter.
It covers everything.
Actually wearing my sorority colors because they were in town for regional conference.
Well, we match well.
We do match well. Beautiful pink. Terminal Tower lit up in pink and green tonight, by the way, as paying homage to the sorority. Look at that. Oh,
News 5 at 6 was sponsored by the Ohio Lottery's Cash Explosion Game Show.
Poor Courtney.
Saturdays at 7:30 p.m.